Shattering Red, Chapter 19. Endless Night. Talbot grabbed at his neck. It was clear he wasn't getting air. His mouth now flapped with a different kind of urgency. His hands reached for help from the populace he had just cursed. He was surrounded, but no one came to his aid. In fact, random limbs from the crowd would breach the darkness and collide with his body in the spotlight. Soon, the old man was down on his knees, lips turning blue. He was flat on the floor before the limbs stopped. The crowd grew silent. It was as if they had all waited for the corpse to reanimate so they could resume the collective beating. No, Vita verbally denied what she had just caused as she watched the crowd continue to beat the dead body. "Come on," Luck encouraged from her ear. "We need to go." She took the elevator down and met him back at the table, where they both tried to leave the arena only to be subdued by a fleet of red-robed individuals. Vita was numb as they held her hands behind her back and used zip cuffs for restraints. Luck was awarded the same dignity, and they were whisked away from the crowd in a concealed wagon to gray-paneled rooms. There, they were left together, alone in the room, uncuffed for questioning. "In my experience, this is good." Luck was rubbing Vita's back as he spoke. As much a nervous habit for him as it was to try and console her. "They left us untethered and together. That has to be good," he chattered and jittered, showing how much he felt like a cornered animal. Vita was not in need of reassurance, but in need of a long sleep. She was not about to give up the back rub, though. It wasn't long before 2 agents in red came barreling through the door. Another stayed on the other side of the door and fought back a very large woman in white and pink polka dots, who was screaming, "It was a plotted murder to get the surrogacy center shut down. They plotted the whole thing to ruin our population." They slammed the door shut, silencing only one of many demanding answers. One of the agents, a woman of stature with black hair, soulful eyes, sat across from them, her male partner staying steadfast in front of the door. "Hello," she started in a warm manner. "I'm Agent Tay, and I'm just here to try and sort out all that happened," she smiled. "Depending on how authentic your video documentation comes back, you will either be free to go or kept in the system." She laughed dryly and added, "I don't think our people have ever been given a show like that before." The man by the door sternly agreed. There was a knock, and he opened it to let Verity through. "You're alive!" Vita exclaimed. She wanted to get up to give him a hug, but the look she received from the doorman was enough to keep her seated. "Yes!" He jumped for joy, making both of the agents nervous. "My robots were able to do exactly what they were programmed to do, and today we're all better for it." He pointed to both of the guards. "You need to let these 2 go, because I have the documentation and a personal account that will corroborate their story." He reached across the table and shook Luck's hand. "Nice to meet you. You must be the boss," Luck offered. "You must be the craftsman behind the show," Verity said pointedly, "which I am very thankful for. Well done. I don't like the outcome, but I was going to have a difficult time breaching the public with the topic." He coughed, realizing he had gone a little too far, as he often did in one-on-one conversations. "We need to get the documentation taken care of and cross-reference the evidence." Tay slammed a hand on the table to make sure they knew she meant business. Verity sat, and there was another knock on the door. The guard opened it, and another red robe poked his head in to say things were verified and they were free to go. Tay gave them a smile and held an arm up to signify they could go. "Where are we supposed to stay?" Vita asked, indicating herself and Luck. "That's actually been arranged." The man who had delivered the news of their freedom held up new badges with updated information. They tried to get up and leave, but he held up his hands before they left. "However, we do need to cover some of the terms of you leaving this room tonight." They were then put through the ringer for an hour about how they handled the situation, even though they asked how else they could have helped. especially when they were pursued by a person with power. They were given no answer. The Void Unit also made it clear that they didn't currently have freedoms. They would be followed whenever outside their established place of residence for their own safety. There are people out there asking for your blood because they don't like the way the situation was handled, the news bearer finished. Whenever you leave, you will have an escort. Vita and Verity hugged, just glad to see that each other had made it through. They waved as she and Luck were attended down a long hallway that seemed connected to the building that they were going to be staying in. They never even had to set foot outside the dull interior of the building, which they both counted as a good thing, because they were bombarded as soon as they left. Once safely in what turned out to be a penthouse suite, apparently the local government was very thankful for what they had uncovered. They collapsed on the nearest cozy object and fell deep asleep, satisfied with what they had managed. Thanks so much for listening to Shattering Red. This is the end of Chapter 19, and if you liked what you heard so far, please be sure to like, subscribe, or follow. This is almost the end. There are only 21 chapters in the book. If you do like it, I am going to post a link to the book below, but please know it is available on most online book retailers. I will also include a link to my Kofi account, just in case you don't want to purchase the book but would like to support me. Thanks so much. Take care.